Welcome back to Structured Mess. Today we are talking about one of the most fascinating transitions in creative and business life, which is moving on from being a long-time freelancer to building something of your own. And my guest today is Ashley Cummings, a freelance SaaS writer for over a decade and now the founder of not just one but two major ventures. She's built a thriving newsletter community and runs her own agency, all while keeping her voice sharp and her perspective fresh. Ashley, before we dive in, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what you're currently working on these days.
Sure, yeah. So as you said, I'm a freelance writer. I started primarily just writing long form content, and I still do quite a bit of that. I primarily write for companies like Adweek, Shopify. I've done some work for Viral Nation recently, just some different companies like that. And then recently, I've also been doing a lot more editing, which I guess makes sense with like AI and stuff like that. There's been quite a big need for that lately, so I've kind of jumped into that as well, which has been actually really fun. And then, as you mentioned, I also have a little agency called Searchlight Content. And this is for clients who need just a little bit more support than maybe, 5 blog posts a month or something. And then I also have a newsletter called Content Connect that is for content marketers, primarily writers. And then it also has a community. So that's kind of what I'm up to, I guess.
Great, great, great. I actually have been following you on LinkedIn for the longest time, and I really do enjoy reading your posts. So, for every writer and marketer out there, I would definitely 100% recommend checking Ashley's work out. It's really great. So, I think not really outgrowing it, but my first question to you would be that when you look back, what were the subtle patterns in your freelance career that hinted that you might want to transition or help out your clients with something more, even before you consciously admitted it?
hmm Yeah, so I think that probably the biggest sign was just an increase in demand. I just had more work than I could handle, really. And this primarily happened during the pandemic when everybody was inside and there was so much e-commerce. And I write, about e-commerce for a lot of e-commerce SaaS tools. And so there's just like so much demand. And so I thought, what are some ways that I can expand in order to grow my business, make more money, and also, keep my clients happy. So there's demand for like on that front. And then there's also demand on just the the other side of it, which is Content Connect, my newsletter and my community, just a lot of other people, who are interested in maybe ditching the 9 to 5, kind of having a little bit more ownership over their careers, wanting to know how it's done. So, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of what led me to start the newsletter. Yeah, so that's the main things.
Right. So there's something really interesting that you mentioned right now, which is about Content Connect, that people wanted to know more and people wanted to learn more. What I wanted to understand along those lines is that when your audience or your reach grows quickly, because if I'm not wrong, Content Connect is at 150,000 subscribers right now. Am I correct?
So so right now it has 150 members of the community, and then the
Right.
newsletter has about 12,000 subscribers.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Okay.
mhm.
So I think my question was that when your reach grows so quickly, what changes about the responsibility of how you feel, or how do you manage the weight of, reaching out and consistently providing quality sort of output to all of those people who sort of expect that from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is just making sure that, what I'm saying is professional and that it's accurate and that it's, if people are coming to you and they're, interested in how you're growing or how you're serving your clients or what's happening in content marketing, I want to make sure that I'm giving them the best information that's out there. And so for me, it's just helped me kind of level up what I pay attention to and how much I pay attention. I spend a couple hours every morning just like reading other newsletters, industry reports, seeing what's happening on LinkedIn, seeing what's happening with AI. There's just so much going on right now. So I guess I feel a big responsibility to make sure that I'm curating that information, and that it's timely and getting to the audience in a way that will help them.
Right. Something that you mentioned about, just spending that little bit of the time every day, that is something I'm kind of curious about. That when you when you shifted from project-based work. So when you talk about projects, client projects, right? As a freelancer, it is that you're getting paid to do hourly work. Your hours are set and you're getting paid to do XYZ work. But when the work is tied to your identity and something you are building, how does that shift sort of show up in the day to day? What did it feel like to move on from, like, sort of renting out your time and skills to build to transition to build something of your own? How did that change sort of your daily work?
Yeah, so I think this is actually kind of goes back to my ultimate goal for starting what I'm doing. I really wanted to have the freedom and the flexibility to build what I wanted, to make the kind of content that I wanted, and then to work for the kind of clients that I want, and then also to have, the flexibility in my schedule. I have two young children. They're a little bit older now, but when I started, I was pregnant with my first child when I made the big shift, and I really wanted to be home with them, but also still have ownership of my career. And um, so essentially, just I think just being able to build my career and my day how I want it to be is like mostly how it's changed and like a big motivator for me.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I think tying up to what you just said, my next question to you would be that a lot of freelancers, I think especially this is a pattern that I see recently on LinkedIn as well, but generally across a lot of industries, that a lot of freelancers think that starting their own thing sort of just means raising their rates or chasing better clients and, going for that independence. But how do you build something fundamentally different from just quote unquote premium freelancing? Like, what would your advice be on that front?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, this is a super interesting question because I do think that the first path to that is raising your rates and chasing better clients. And I think if freelancing is something that you want to do and you want to stay with, I think that's totally fine. You just have to know, what type of work that you like to do. And if you're happy in in that space, then I think that is actually a really good thing to do is to understand what other people in the industry are charging and, who you can work for that you can bring the most value to and who will respect you and treat you as a partner rather than a client. So I do think that's great. But as far as like building something fundamentally different, I guess it goes back to the same question, like, or the same idea, which is what is it that you want to be doing? What is it that you're passionate about? And what is it that you're good at? And then once you see those, either see, and then also look for the gaps in the market. And then when you see that converge, you're like, oh, there's a space here for me to build something different.
Right.
I think actually a good example of that, and I'm going to give a person, but I think Erica Schneider is like a really good example of that. I'm not sure if you've seen her on LinkedIn, but
I
she,
have, yes.
okay, yeah, like she's kind of started as like the editing person, and then she was, pivoted into, um, the hook person, and all these different things. And she's kind of gone through this transformation of like, actually, what I want to do is be, a consulting person, taking people from, $20,000 a month to $50,000 a month. And so I think just she's a really good example of going from I was solo doing my own thing. There's this gap in the market. I've really defined my offer and now I like know who I am in this space. So
Yeah,
if that's what you want, then I think that's a great path.
right. Absolutely. But I also wonder, because leaving your job or quote unquote trying the freelancer lifestyle
Mhm.
out for a lot of people also comes with a very big change in risk tolerance as well, right? So it's like a
Uh-huh.
bigger bet that you're sort of committing to. And
Mhm.
moving sort of moving on from freelancers to establishing your own business also has a similar trade-off, right? So if something does
Right.
not work out for you as a freelancer, you can pivot quickly to a different niche
Mhm.
and see where it fits. But when you're building something of your own, are you sort of betting onto like a more of a fixed vision, or is there a trade-off there? I'm just a little curious about that.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge risk taker myself, like, and so the way that I've kind of done it is in like smaller steps. Like when I was working at my nine to five, I'm just one of those like really motivated people who I would get my work done really fast and then have some extra time. So I kind of started at moonlighting, and then as soon as I had enough money to, or enough clients and prospects to move to full freelance writing, that's when I did it. And then same thing with every step that I've taken in my career. It's kind of been like, do I have the foundation for this? And
Right.
is it the right time to pivot? As far as being like fixed in my niche, I think this is really interesting because there's two parts of that too. Like really, you do have to be right now, especially like a subject matter expert, and so it is important to in some ways to stay in your niche. And I typically like I'll write in about SaaS, I'll write about e-commerce, I'll write about marketing, advertising, and I pretty much live in that land. And I don't
Right.
try to, write about, I don't know, finance or whatever. But as far as like I think it's really important right now to be open to pivoting how you offer your services and what services you offer within that niche. So, for example, I mentioned that I have recently started doing a lot of editing, and that's probably a third of my clients right now. Whereas, before this year, the full 15 years of my career, I didn't really do any editing.
Right.
And that's just because the market demands it and it makes a lot more sense. So I think, yes, it's important to be fixed in your niche, but like be really adaptable in what the industry demands and how you can fill those needs.
Right, right, right. Just because you mentioned moonlighting, there's a very specific question I have that we have been talking
Thanks.
about the strategic side of transitioning from being a freelancer to a business person. But I also want to hear about the reality of the day-to-day grind. That what did your initial weeks actually look like in the early days when you were building your own thing alongside doing client work, and then sort of managing your everyday work, and if you'd have some advice on how to have people source out clients and really sort of pace their work accordingly.
For sure. I mean, the first thing that I'll say is I'm lucky in that I have a partner who also works, and so that does free up a little bit of it frees up time and creates a safety net for sure. I think it's
Yeah.
different for people who are maybe going it completely on their own. But the first thing that I think is to start outsourcing things that you're either not good at or that you don't enjoy, or that someone else has, an equal talent that you do that you can partner up with. So when I started building, and that's kind of what moved me a little bit into the agency model, is I during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of subcontracting, and I built some relationship with some great writers, some great editors, and it just gave me the ability to find people that I trust and that I could rely on, and it gave me the ability to scale essentially and to be able to offer more services as more of like a team instead of just as an individual. But I would just say, take it a step at a time. Work on relationships, people that you like working with, and I think it's really cool to pitch yourself as a team. If that's the route that you want to go, just like, these people are there might be looking for a content person, an SEO person, an editor, and it's like if you know who those people are and you work well together, then tell your client, that's a win for them. They don't have to do the recruiting and you already have a process that works. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. I think my next question to you would be that the moment you realize that you're outgrowing something, that can be equal parts exciting, but it can also be a little uncomfortable. And I just wanted to understand how your relationship with security and money, sort of changed when you moved from project-based income to recurring revenue, because I think that's a very big
Mhm.
aspect of people who are, planning to take that leap from to transition from like sort of freelancing to invest money into a business, source out clients, and actually focus on doing that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the first thing that it did is, I mean, it opened my eyes really to what is possible. I think when I first started freelance writing, when I was moonlighting, I was charging a penny per word for articles. I was getting paid like
Oh,
$5
wow.
for articles. Just like it was not, a lot. It was not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's a fine place to start, I guess. I had no experience and whatever, but it's not a good place to stay. So I think just understanding, like really doing research and understanding what's possible and making those big asks that feel big to you, but like I realized that, when I did the research and figured out what other people were charging, and then I started asking for those prices, clients really didn't bat an eye. They were like, okay. And I was like, oh, so I could have been charging this the whole time. And so I think my relationship with money maybe was just like, it isn't as scary of an ask as you think it is,
Yeah.
because what feels like a lot of money to us is not a lot to a big SaaS company. Like, if I come in and ask, Adweek for a certain amount or something, they're going to be like, okay, not like, oh my gosh, that's so much.
Yeah.
Um, I think that also is a really good indicator of like the type of clients you want to work with. Like I would say, without a doubt, every single time that I have a client who stews over money, they are a nightmare to work with. Like they don't understand how content works. They don't understand the amount of work that goes into it. They have really
Absolutely.
weird demands. And then when I have someone who like is like, yeah, we have the budget for this, they like understand what goes into it and they're a joy to work with. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I really agree with that, and share that sentiment that a lot of times I've also witnessed that the clients that you have to go a lot of back and forth with about money, it just really
Mhm.
is not worth the hassle, because they really see it
Mhm.
as we give you the topic, we give you the keywords, and what do you have to do? You just have to use your skills and write a XYZ, right? But they don't understand the research that goes behind it and the amount of skill and time and effort that goes behind it.
Mhm.
So for sure, for sure. And the way I see it actually is, which is I think a very great way to just generally learn a skill, is that if someone is asking you to do something for them, it does not have to be the best. I think that is what scares a lot of people, that if I have to charge XYZ amount, it needs to be like the industry standard in terms of writing, right? It needs to be the
Right.
best. It needs to be something someone has ever written. But what you have to understand is that if someone is paying you for a skill, it's just that you are somewhere slightly better, or you are somewhere slightly more experienced than what they are used to or what they have seen, and they just require that. They don't need
Mhm.
the best. So they just require your services because they like it in comparison to what they have experienced, right? So, with the money, literally, what you can do is you can do the job while you upskill yourself and provide better service to them. That's
Yeah.
absolutely okay. But I think a lot of
Mhm.
times where people do get stuck is that they feel like they have, in order to charge X amount, they have to do XYZ, and then
Mhm.
only they'll be able to charge that.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, I mean, most people in our industry like are really good at our job. Like the top people that you think about, like I mean, if you hire me, if you hire, Lizzie Davy, if you hire Kaylee Moore or Banny Carr or whatever, like if you hire any of us, like the work is going to be good. And all of us can command all of us in our industry can command those prices and it's normal. But I think you're more looking for like fit. Who do who's going to bring you not just an article, but they're going to bring you a process. Who are you not going to have to babysit? Who's going to come in and say, I'm going to hand you, I have all of this running in the behind and I'm going to hand you, publish ready work because I also work with an internal editor. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, I guess I would just, this is a really roundabout way of saying, of
Yeah.
saying, yeah, I think like, don't undervalue yourself and don't be afraid to command those prices and realize that every single writer, they get red marks back on their drafts because it's a collaboration process with you, your client, and the editor. And that's going to happen from day one to day 2000 or whatever of your career. And that's okay that you're still doing the work. you're still providing value and it's okay to charge those prices.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Ashley, before I ask you my last question, I have a very quick sort of a rapid fire round that these are really short questions and I just need you to give some instinctive answers. I think it's going to be fun. I think the first question I have for you is what's a piece of business advice that you ignored and you're really glad that you did that?
Let's see. I don't know if this is a piece of advice, but it was kind of like I was on a like really weird podcast once, and the guy was just like, he was like, well, I already, basically, he was like, because there's already freelance writing newsletters out there, which is what mine started out as, then, why are you creating this one? And I was like, that's kind of like bad advice. Like, it's kind of like saying, like, why do you watch one sports player or something? I don't know. Like, there's
Yeah.
just like something, I think it's important to realize that your voice and your experience has value and it's okay. Like, even if people are like, say that it's gimmicky or they say that, like, I already follow this person or whatever, like, you still have value and bring it to the table. Like, someone will find that valuable.
100%, 100%. It's like saying there are already a million chefs out there in the world. Why do you want to cook? Just go there and eat at the restaurant. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. I think my next question to you would be, what is the first thing that you would outsource as a business owner if money and skill were no object?
Anything sales, anything like personal marketing, it's a full-time job. Like, it takes a lot of time to keep the engine running. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's interesting.
Absolutely. I think something along those lines again. If you could delete one work task from existence without it implicating anything in your business, what would that be?
Same sales.
Sales.
Just I am not a salesperson. Like, as far as like getting on the phone sales type of person, like I love the marketing side of things, but like sales, I'm like, I do not want to like sit here and like pitch my services. It's just the worst.
I think it sort of makes sense the way I have at least observed in my career so far. Marketing people, although it's direct, it's not direct sales, but they do really tend to hate the sales part of any job because it just seems too pushy to us, right? We are trying to educate, we
Yeah.
are trying to let the
Right.
reader know about things, and then there's just sales people coming and being really pushy. Please buy this, please do this, and it just I think
Yeah.
it's sort of really a very
hmm
opposite personality sort of a thing.
I think so. It's like everything we do leads to the salespeople to like be the closers, And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't just like get on the phone with anybody. I want them to, whatever, come to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my next question to you would be, what is a skill that you'd wish you had mastered because before sort of taking the leap into creating the newsletter and your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like, and this is something that I'm learning, but just like audience growth, I think it's so important, but it's also like with what I'm doing, but it is something that I'm still learning. And if I knew every little thing I had to know about that, I would be in a better position for sure. But like that would be really cool to just know everything about that.
Yeah.
But
All right,
sometimes you don't, so you
absolutely.
just have to make the leap.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I do think the best way to grow is to do it on the job and learn and just scale instead of just waiting for the perfect moment when you know everything, because that's literally impossible, especially in our world today that is just changing so much so rapidly. It's just very difficult
Mhm.
to, wait for the perfect moment.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I think my final question to you would be before we wrap this up is what are some signs that someone is better off staying an excellent, well-paid freelancer rather than switching to a full-time business owner?
I think that just really knowing yourself and if you're comfortable where you are and you're making money and you like what you're doing and you have the life that you want, then keep doing it. Really the only reason to transition to something else is if you feel like you're not successful or you feel like you have something that you really want to offer and you're super excited about it. Then make the transition. But I think being a freelance writer is it's super valuable. It's an amazing career, and if you're making money and you're doing great, it's a wonderful place to stay.
Right, great. Ashley, this has been a really insightful conversation, and I'm really happy that we talked about mindset, habits, and trade-offs that come with it. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your perspective. I know our listeners will walk away with a lot of clarity and inspiration.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time and for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, if you've enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.